Well,
Okay. Good evening, Lou. And just before we start, I want to do a little thank you to my best friend who got me this nice cup and saucer to make me look a bit more posh in my talks. And it says on the saucer, a moment with you means more than you know. And I think I can pass the same message to you, Lou. These moments mean a lot to me.
Oh, that's
yes.
lovely. Thank you.
Yes.
They mean a lot to me
Thank
too.
you. Thank you, Kerry. Yes. So now let's do a posh chat with Carol and Lou, if we can. We'll try our best.
I doubt it's going to be posh, Carol.
I doubt it too. So this week I want to start off where I ended off last week. And I know this stuff all sounds very political, and this is a spiritual talk. But in my experience, the two are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this world, the politics are what makes your life what it is. Because we are all chained to the politics. Whatever they decide, the rest of us have to do. Mm-hmm. We're prisoners, right? So last week I talked about getting £74 a week and being on universal credit. So I have a sick line in for 8 weeks because I have osteoarthritis and I'm still recovering from a serious car accident. Uh-huh. Last week they called me into the local social security office and they wanted to talk about getting me back to work. And I said, and how are you going to do that? Well, my doctor says I'm not fit for work. Uh-huh. So they handed me a leaflet, which was being run by the DWP and the Health and Social Services, which would work with me to get me to a better place with my condition and possibly back to work. So what made me so angry is when I walked in there were 6 people I could see, and not one of them was doing anything, right? There was a security man with his feet up. There was 2 receptionists with their back to me chatting to another guy about his holidays. There was 2 men sitting at a desk having a real chinwag, and there was the guy waiting to see me. I was the only client in that whole office. Mm-hmm. And the guy that was talking to me informs me that they're back 2 days a week. 2 days a week. COVID was over ages ago, and they're working 2 days a week for huge wages that we're paying, right? Mm-hmm. And they bring me in to see if I am fit to go back to work. I'm 1 year off retirement with osteoarthritis. So I was very angry. Mm-hmm. So that led me to thinking about the people I've mostly seen over the past 18 years. Yeah. They are mostly women. Quite a lot of them have addictions to drugs or alcohol, or they have a mental health supposed problem. I never believed the labels. Mm-hmm. And it came to my understanding that most of these people were addicted and everything else because the system was destroying them. And spirituality is about becoming awakened to the truth. And the truth is that in this world where we are all born equal, we are all imprisoned by the system. And it is breaking our minds, our spirits, and our mental health. And spirituality, to me, is like something that will help you escape from that imprisonment when you see the truth of what's happening to you. So there we go, Lou. That's how I'm starting off this week.
Yeah. The thing is, I think, and this is absolutely right, it's awakening to the truth of what's happening.
Yeah.
And how these systems are demonizing and othering people who are very vulnerable, particularly vulnerable in society, and how there's money to pay, a lot of money to pay gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Dehumanize and to really make life harder for our most vulnerable, you know, because universal basic income, okay, that's something that means that everybody gets paid enough to live, and everybody gets paid enough to live comfortably, and it's all going into the system. It's like a lot of people who are getting benefits, they're not sending this money offshore. You know what I mean? They're not sending it to tax havens. It's all going into the economy. They're contributing to the economy. They're pay, you know, it's not like they're tucking it away. So we're often, even these people who are paid a lot of money to do things like that to you. Like I've gone through the CAPITA process.
Yeah,
that is,
and it is the most humiliating, dehumanizing process ever.
Yeah, and I got points on really weird things, and I wasn't this, but then I was told by a politician that I should have lied, and I was like, but you said do it. Then I had to work really hard. So this is the thing, Carol. People do work for benefits.
Yes.
You have to work to get benefits. You're working for the state. You have to work, you have to attend meetings, you have to fill out forms. So people are working much below minimum wage to get receipt of those benefits. But they're being made to feel like they're not. But like I had to do work to get through that process. And then so I did all the work. They said, you're disabled. You fill out this form. So that's work, me filling out that form. Then they made me, one time I had to go and see if I was eligible for, is it universal credit?
Yeah.
They made me, while I was running my own business, because I told them I was autistic, they then made me do more work because I was autistic. They made me go and get a form the doctor to say I wasn't fit for work, even though I was working, because and then I still got refused any benefits. So, you know, you got to understand that these systems and processes, people are working. You're not. Absolutely. You're constantly working for the state to treat you like absolute crap.
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to help you. So this universal basic income, I don't know why. Like I often think Sinn Féin used to say that they were socialist. They're not socialist at all. Who are actually standing up for the vulnerable? Who see the loyalist and unionist parties? Like none of them seem to give a shit about disabled, about single parents, about domestic abuse. So who is sticking up for these people who are being failed by all of our politics?
Themselves. That's all they have is themselves. Because no political party takes any of that as under their radar. They just dismiss it. But they love getting photographs around people like that.
Do they?
But they don't actually do anything for them. Well, there's some around here, although I've seen some ridiculous photographs. But anyway, the most important thing of what you just said was lying to get benefits.
Yeah, right? I was told I should have worked.
When you're filling in a form for benefits, if you do it yourself and you tell the truth, you will be turned down. If you go to a professional liar and pay them to fill your form in with lies that you couldn't tell yourself because you're an honest person, you will get it. Now, what the hell?
The system rewards you, right? People talk about narcissists all the time, and they talk about sociopaths and psychopaths. This system rewards psychopaths.
Yes. Honest people in this system are dehumanized.
Yes.
They have to jump through so many hoops to get a few pounds to survive on. They are totally dehumanized, and they're the people that's telling the truth.
And the legal system rewards liars too.
Yeah. The better story you can tell in court, you get away with it. It's the best story that wins, not the truth.
Any domestic abuse, any rape, anything like that there, an abuser has to do is say, she's crazy, she's a liar. And then guess what? They get off.
I love the crazy bit because many, many years ago, I was deemed crazy. Bipolar, right? I was put on lithium for many, many years. After I had my car accident 2 years ago, I got hold of my medical records. And there in the middle of my medical records, it said, this highly intelligent woman shows no signs of mental illness, right? Nobody ever told me that, and nobody ever took me off the medication. crazy or rebel? Which is it?
Or smarter, or
Or
too
smarter?
too smart for the man who couldn't control you. And
I was never mentally ill. I was always a rebel.
You're always too smart for them, Carol.
Yeah. And if you can see the truth, they will try to make sure you cannot show anyone else the truth. And that's what it's all about. Silence. I mean, you read out a list one day on one of your channels about the men who were deep, real, masculine. And I'd like you to read that list again.
Oh, the deep man. Oh, yeah. It was Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. Who else was on that list?
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Leonard Cohen was there. Martin
Yeah.
Luther King was there. Nelson Mandela.
I would add Tupac as a modern.
Yeah.
Deep human. But the point is, what happened to most of those people who voiced the truth?
Yeah.
They were silenced.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in this day and age, more and more people are starting to see the truth, and they can't silence everyone. They're starting to lose the battle.
Well, do you know where I think the truth we're starting to see with the strikes and everything?
Yeah.
Even those in the systems that have been protecting them and trying to stop the truth getting out, even they're having enough. Even they're like, no.
Yeah.
Even they're starting to rise, and they're starting to go, no, because they're being screwed over too.
Absolutely. I mean, I worked in community care during COVID, and what those girls that I worked with and myself had to do through that was absolutely, well, it was unbearable work. It was so hard. And people clapping for you. But at the end of the day, they didn't value us. They gave us £9 an hour and sent us out to do it with no, at the start, with no protection. Nobody cares. And that's what people have got to realise. The system does not care.
Well, it can't. It's not set up to care. It's set up to protect the system and the staff often, but it's set up to protect. It's not capable. Institutions are not capable of caring.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Especially the bigger they get and the stronger it's going to be, they're going to be more oppressive.
Yeah. So when we think about all this, where does spirituality come into this?
Taking your power back, empowering people.
Empowering people. And that's what I did here for those 18 years. And those who were empowered, then they suddenly saw how they'd been living. So spirituality frees people. It frees people from servitude to the system. Because they start saying, no, I'm not doing that. And they start fighting back. You know, and I know a lot of women that came here who were in, I actually heard that one woman in particular, when she was talked to about Reiki, said to a friend of mine, but they always tell people to leave their husbands.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, guilty as charged. I told every single person that came to me and talked about abuse or anything that was bringing them down as a person to leave.
Yes.
I did. So spirituality is about empowerment.
Absolutely.
It's about realizing that we are not just these human bodies to be bossed about and to be working and we are actually energy. We are all of us energy connected to the divine energy. And we are much more than they make us believe we are.
Yes.
Absolutely much more. And they are afraid of everyone finding this out. That we have much more power than we think we have. And they, through things like the legalization of alcohol.
Yeah.
Once you see the truth, you realize that that was just a drug to make sure you never knew your truth.
Absolutely. Alcohol. Carol, give me a minute with these dogs. I'll be back in a second and we could
No
talk
problem.
alcohol and addiction. So see, when you were talking about alcohol and
Yeah.
addictions,
Yeah.
I think of that as like these things, lots of things that people fill their time and their days with. I think the gym can be one too.
The gym can be one, but it can be used both ways.
I
Yes, exercise will improve the body, which improves the mind, which can improve the spirit. So if it's done in the right way, it can be a benefit. But if it becomes an obsession to escape from reality, then that's the same as an addiction of drugs or alcohol. All of those things are used to escape from life.
Or like TV can be used, I call it like a consciousness numbing. These are activities that keep you on that level of comfort where you don't really want to.
Yeah, you don't really want to rock your own boat.
Yeah, you don't want to think too much about what's going on and other people. And sure, we're all struggling. Everybody's having a hard time. So you kind of you justify you know, your politics, or you justify you know, kind of looking down on people, and you don't really awaken to the truth, which is actually, the truth is that we're all not most people are not far from poverty.
Yeah, they don't realize. I put a post up today and it said something, it was the Joker, and it said something about people will only like you as long as you're doing what they need. And I wrote above it, especially the government.
Yeah.
As long as you're towing the line, doing exactly what you wanted to do, which is work for the capitalist system and make money for everyone else, do exactly what the government tells you, they leave you at peace. And it's all economical, because as soon as you can't work, they will torture and harass you until you do have a mental illness created by the state.
Well, that's what I do talk a lot about institutional and systemic abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when they'll hit you with that, when you could no longer work 40 or 50 hours a week and make money for whoever your taskmaster is. Once you can't do that, you have no purpose to them. And that's the spiritual problem. The spiritual problem is they keep us in a state where we cannot see the truth. So once we escape from that and become attached to our whole true selves, we realize we don't even need any of it.
Your authentic self, like,
that is all we actually need.
Yeah, stepping into your authenticity.
Yes.
And actually, but do you not think, so sometimes I think people might go, oh, but why? Oh, this sounds really, really scary. And I get that too, but I don't actually think, I think that fear is what keeps people from being authentic. I think there's a lot of shame. People don't speak out because they carry a lot of shame. So they carry shame about certain things. They carry shame about systemic and political issues that there's no shame in. You know,
there's shame about everything. They are not enough. Everybody thinks they are not enough.
Yeah.
But everybody is enough the moment they're born.
Yes.
They give away their enoughness. They give away their power. They give away everything about themselves.
Yeah.
And they're no longer attached to who they are. And until they take back that power and authenticity, they're never going to be happy.
Well, I think, you know, for instance, people would write to me telling me how brave I am for being openly like a neurodivergent therapist. So I would have other therapists or other professionals say, I read your blogs, or I read what you wrote, and I just think it's so brave that you're open about being autistic. And I'm like, that is sad.
Isn't it? Why should you not be open about being autistic?
What the fuck is wrong with being autistic?
People who are autistic, all of my best friends, it turns out, are autistic.
Carol, the place is full of autistics. There's about everybody.
All over the place. My grandson's just been diagnosed.
People
Everywhere.
everywhere, but there's
It's a different way of thinking. Sometimes it's an amazing way of thinking that the rest of them couldn't do in a fit.
Northern Ireland's
Oh, it
full of
scares me.
diagnosed autistics. To see your generation and my generation, they're all like, oh, my child's autistic and da da da. And I'm like, oh my God, they have no idea. They're autistic as hell. But this
Yes, exactly. I worked in SRC, right? Learning support with the kids who had learning disabilities or had mental health problems. And a lot of them, I used to say, I know what their parents going to be like by how the child is.
yes.
Right? And we'd have had a meeting and a parent would have come in. And you could see that they were exactly the same as the child.
I know. They are so funny. I'm like,
I used to be sitting there going, why can you not understand your child when he's exactly the same as you? And if I had said that, I never did say it, I thought it. They
yeah,
would have been horrified.
ADHD too.
So,
Like, the country
there's
is
an awful lot of adults that are undiagnosed, but I don't believe in labels and all this diagnosis shit anyway. We're all humans. We just live the way we live and we are the way we are.
but the thing with those is it's quite interesting because you're saying about rebels.
Yeah,
The North is full of rebels.
yeah,
Autistics don't conform.
exactly.
That's why the rates on this country are off the scale.
Yeah.
People do not like being told what to do here.
No, no,
They don't really respect authority that much.
no.
They're trying to do things to their own beat.
Yeah.
It's like autism.
Sounds like autism. Bring on the autistic people. Neurotypicals will change this world.
Neurotypicals are the problems. No, neurodivergence. Yeah, neurodivergence will change.
Neurodivergence will change this world.
Oh,
But they will never accept the rules. And why should we accept other people's rules when we were all born equal?
Well, why should we accept those rules when those rules are very harmful to us?
Yeah. Yes. There are two things in this world, fear and love. The rules are made to create fear. Because everyone is living in fear. Fear of their next payment of their mortgage. Fear of losing their job. Fear of being labelled and rejected. It's all fear-based.
Well, that's another thing, the rejection sensitivity. Actually, this is the other thing about spirituality.
Yeah.
I was rejected because of an incident that happened in 2019. I was completely, because I wrote my truth, my authenticity, right? I was very authentic, wrote my truth. I was, I never, ever, ever believed this would happen. I never believed that my parents would reject me, especially over something as stupid, like, but they did. They chose actually our abuser over me and my children, right? And they rejected me. Now, that was one of the biggest fears of my life. But I think this is spirituality. Me being able to accept that and come to terms with that and grieve has led to my freedom.
Yes.
Because now I am free to be my authentic self. Whereas if my parents were in my life, they would have not been able to accept it ever.
Yes.
So,
and I have a similar life. I have been rejected by all my siblings. I haven't heard from them in many years. I think they think I'm crazy. I don't mind because I think they're crazy. And the reason why it doesn't matter is spirituality teaches that everyone in your life signed a contract before you were born.
Yes.
Teach you things in this life.
Yes.
Right? And the people will come into your life, parents, siblings, friends, everybody that comes into your life is there to teach you something. And once you've got the lesson, they will move on. So it's not that they're coming into this world against us and doing something awful on us. They are teaching us big lessons.
Yes.
They have taught us how to be free,
How
how to be
to,
independent,
yes,
how to love. By not loving us, by not accepting us, they teach us how to love and accept.
exactly. That's
And
what,
that's spirituality. That's what
yes,
spirituality teaches you. So the world can no longer make you suffer. So in Buddhism, they say life is suffering.
yeah.
And once you find the truth of life, you're free from the suffering because you understand. That's spirituality.
Yes. So sometimes I think the biggest freedom comes from facing your greatest fear
Yes.
and overcome. So that was my great.
Definitely.
So I am
So that
incredibly
fear of rejection,
yes.
once you're rejected, you go, well, that wasn't too bad. That's all right. I'll move on now. I'll accept rejection is okay.
Oh yeah, it's a little bit more painful,
I
but
know it is, but that's the end result. Yes.
exactly.
Painful at the time. But if you're already spiritual when it happens, which is what happened to me, you see it for what it is.
Yeah,
A
it's
lesson learned. A
right.
part of your contract fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but it's kind of like it's hard for people to see that. I didn't see that coming, and now at this side of it, I'm incredibly grateful for,
Yeah.
because I see people who
Every experience.
I can be me, and I can
Mhm.
I can be me. I can do what I do, my path,
Mhm.
my like I'm running for election, all that.
Yeah.
If they were in my life, their anxiety would be off the scale. They would
Yeah.
be doing everything they could to try and stop me because of
Mhm.
their beliefs and values. Whereas
Yeah.
now I'm free to live, to walk my authentic path.
Yeah.
And whereas I see people my age who are constantly kind of, they're confined by that older generation, that
Yeah.
conservative older generation who kind of still control them in many ways. I
Yeah.
actually have that.
And that older generation who, I mean, very few of that older generation became spiritual compared to how many people are turned to spirituality now. So they were still attached to all the rules of education, the church, the government, all those things. They respected all those things without questioning. Spirituality and the truth has brought people to a place where they question. Do I have to do that? Is that the right thing for them to do? Or should I protest and not do that because it is not right? Because it is abusive. I mean, if we go back to the example of abuse against women, it was okay up to a few years ago. But systemic and institutional abuse was massive up to a few years ago. They would have locked people up in a mental asylum for years. And why that doesn't happen now is because people became aware it was happening. So the more we become aware of, the more we know about the truth, the more society changes. And the more it changes, the more we can change the systems because they won't work anymore. I mean, I see a day in the future when classrooms won't exist because the kids just won't go. And if they do go, I've already seen breakdown in classrooms. In SRC, many of the people in my classroom would have been sitting on phones under their desks. They weren't listening to one word and they weren't doing a bit of work. They were just sitting playing on their phones. And if you had to challenge them, they got aggressive. And they'd have told you where to go. So there is starting to be, in some places, a breakdown in that obedience and conformity. It's starting to break down, in my view.
Well, I was talking to somebody the other day, actually, and I was saying that one of the main, I see the problem with the education model, and kind of call it, they kind of think there's pedagogy of the oppressed. Talks about filling it, they're kind of teacher goes, I'm the authority figure, and here's the information, and you must be filled with my knowledge, and then that's I'm God almost, and you're gonna
learn this and repeat it.
Yeah, so it's indoctrination. it's not really a proper true education, but that's the
No.
education model that's adopted and adapted
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You kind of fill their buckets with information and then they regurgitate. But
Yeah.
that's going to be more difficult as time goes on to defend.
Absolutely.
Or it's not really, it's very outdated. It's
Yeah.
not. It's
Well, me
not
and my daughter are two
represented.
examples, you know. I left school at 16 and I went to a grammar school, but I thought this is a load of nonsense. I didn't believe one word they ever told me about history, geography, anything they taught me. I used to take it with a pinch of salt, and I used to get bored. I
Yeah.
used to do things like fall asleep in physics. And I left school at 16. But when I was in my 30s and a single parent, I started studying with the Open University. And I studied subjects that I was passionate about, like environmental science, because I was working with Friends of the Earth, and ordinary science, and health and social care, because I was interested in the vulnerable in society. And I was so passionate about all those. It wasn't like studying, it was just like, I want to know about this. And my daughter did the same. She's going to be a lawyer in the next year, but she only got interested in that when she was in her 30s.
Yeah.
She went back to uni and she became what she is now. But when she was at school, she did the same thing. She left at 16. She'd had enough.
Yeah, but the teachers, it's very hard. It's a big system that's supported by a lot of people. But one of the things, one of the biggest problems with that education model is that they teach people that respect equals obedience. It's really, 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 really dangerous, particularly when you think about domestic abuse and you think about abuse within the home, because you know what, like if you're teaching people that respect is obeying and listening, and they get punished if they don't obey. Respect is like honoring people as an autonomous human being. It's honoring them and their uniqueness and all of their complexity. It's not obeying at all costs. And people don't actually join the dots. Especially church is the same. Like church respect is obedience. And it's not. Respect is not obedience. That's so dangerous in terms of domestic abuse, in terms of sexual exploitation of children. Like you cannot.
Anything an adult tells you is okay. So if an adult tells you I'm going to sexually abuse you and don't tell anybody, you do it.
Well, but that's it's just so. And then they don't. People don't think they do. Right. What I find too, I upset a lot of teachers because I said that the primary focus should be pastoral care and welfare, and that it should be like childcare. Right. They're like, how dare you? You know, I am an educator, and I'm like, you're fucking pumping out a shit curriculum. Like, fuck up. You know what I mean? But the teachers are very fucking egoic, a lot of them anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
No, but then COVID happened. I got bullied by loads of them, because I was very, very vocal about how children were being abused in primary schools and they were being abused by the system and all this here.
Yeah.
But they were like, how dare you? We're educators. We're qualified. I'm like, you've a PGC.
Well, I spent 12 years working with them, and believe me, I had to do so much pastoral care that they were ignoring that it was unbelievable. The kids that were in there, I had a child coming to me. Now, this is secondary school, 16 years old upwards. And I had a guy came to me one day and he said, can you help me? I have only got one outfit of clothing and the other kids are starting to make fun of me. So what the hell do you say to a child that is going through that stress going to school because of poverty? You know, it broke my heart working in education. You know, especially with the kids with learning disability. They hadn't hope. If the ordinary kids were struggling, they hadn't a chance. Because the teachers knew nothing about learning disability.
Yeah, they don't know anything. They know. Do you know that they've decided, right? I think right, there's something about 240 arrests for International Women's Day. The PSNI was saying there was 240 arrests for domestic abuse.
Yeah.
So what? They fucking arrested me for nonsense, and they arrested me. That doesn't fucking mean that you're serious about domestic abuse. Those
No.
arrests could lead to further abuse, and that's
Yeah.
what they're doing. And
And
also, it
those
doesn't mean
people
that
go
they need,
home when they get released. Yeah.
exactly, and it doesn't mean that they're getting prosecuted, because most
No.
prosecutions don't happen. So, but the
It
other
mostly
thing,
means they got their wrists slapped.
I think, and do you know what else comes up, Carol? So
Yeah.
now they've decided that if domestic abuse is reported, they're going to tell the children's school. Now, teachers are trained to deliver a curriculum. That's what they're trained to do. So what? Teachers aren't generally known as the most emotionally intelligent, like trauma
No.
professionals.
Far from it. And you know something? Now this is my view. Teachers are part of the system that causes the damage, so how can they fix it?
And teachers are conformists. They're not
Absolutely.
critical. They're not critical thinkers. They're not.
No,
They're
they
generally.
only
I
learn
got bullied.
facts and pass them on.
I
Facts
got
and
bullied by
pass
a
them on.
lot of them. Like I think I would not trust any teachers. I
No,
wouldn't
not with
trust them.
stuff like that. No, they have
There's a lot
not.
of- there's a
They
lot of
haven't got,
teachers.
definitely haven't got the required intelligence to look after abused or learning disabled children.
And the other thing that I'm hearing from people that talking about, because I'm going, is that social services
Ah,
is potentially, so the education system fails a lot of people,
Yep.
but social services is the most dangerous service
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of protecting women and children.
yeah,
I don't even know at this point, from after having lots of conversations, I'm not entirely sure what they're basically doing apart from making vulnerable women their lives hell.
I'm making them more frightened.
Yes, they're bullying them.
They're bullying them. They're
So-
scaring them.
Yeah, if they report domestic abuse, the woman's getting abused for having a crap partner.
Yeah, because is she capable of minding her kids then? If her crap partner is making her have a mental illness,
Yeah.
it's all stacked against the person that's being abused.
Yes.
So yeah. So yeah, women need to get together, take back their power, and start fighting all this shit.
Take back their power. Also speak their truth. They've nothing to
Speak
be
their
ashamed of.
I have no fear. Absolutely, I used to have a cap with no fear written on it, and that time I had fear, but I wish the hell I'd kept the cap. Because you see, right now, I have no fear of anyone. No one on this planet. Because I am much more than this, and I am much more than anyone who has not been awakened to the truth.
The reason I'm standing is because I've been complaining. I do not want to pay into a system and to pay for services that are actively harmful to me.
Yeah.
That are actively harmful to women and girls. Why should I pay for social services to exist when they're brutalizing and traumatizing and abusing
Women and children.
vulnerable women? Why should I pay whenever women are being killed when they go out jogging? Why should when they go out jogging, when they go into public spaces, like why should I be paying for stupid judges who are acquitting men? While the PSNI are doing 240 arrests, why should I pay for judges who are like, oh, this doesn't meet the bar, it's your word against his? I'm like, why should I be paying for men, your worships in courts, who I've heard woman after woman have been failed by the misogyny within our justice system. And this is what we need women to say. I have carried the shame. I have been not believed. I have been treated like crap by social workers. I have had, I phoned for help because I was scared for my life, and I ended up being abused by the services, by the people who were supposed to. We need voices.
I have seen that recently. And I mean, I used to work for Women's Aid, and I used to go with people to the courts. And they get let down badly. But that misogyny is through every system in this country.
Yes.
And it's through our political system.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask now anyone out there who would like to come on here and tell their story. in the hope of enlightening people to the truth of what goes on, and that there's no shame in being abused. There is no shame in having an illness. There is no shame in anything when you take that step to empowerment and spirituality. So if anyone wants to come on here and speak about it, yeah, I'd be happy to bring them here.
Yeah, that would be, I think it's so important. It's so important.
Yeah. A space for truth.
A space for truth.
Yeah.
That's spirituality. That's it. Just say
spirituality. That's it in a nutshell.
it's
Truth and freedom.
Yeah, and not carrying that shame.
Repression.
Yeah, and being around
We're
people.
all repressed.
We're all repressed.
And you know, the housing executive used to threaten to make me homeless all the time, and they used to think that threat would have made me get them their money out of thin air by miracles, because I was off work for nearly a year with ill health. And you know, yeah, I don't care. I used to be frightened. I used to think, what am I going to do if they take my house off me? Do you know what I think now? Take the bloody house. It's only bricks. I'll live in a tent. I don't give a fuck.
No.
You can no longer hold those things over me to make me fearful. I'll go and sit in your doorway for a few nights with a sleeping bag and make you look at me every morning. All you people that work for the civil service and think you're high and mighty. Because there's not one person in the civil service that's higher and mightier than I am.
No.
And that's what those people need to learn.
Yeah, but do you not think, though, they can't see their privilege?
They can't see their privilege, no, and they can also not see that we are all equal.
They can't see that.
I got ill and couldn't pay my rent doesn't make me some kind of a scumbag.
I know.
It makes me vulnerable.
Yeah.
So civil service, that's our next one. How the working classes damage each other because they've got a wee bit of kudos from their job that makes them think they can look down. That is another enemy of the vulnerable, is their own class looking down on them.
Okay, yeah, you see, but this is what I think spirituality is, and this is why I see myself as very spiritual.
Yeah.
I know that I am not better than anybody, and nobody is better than me. I know that.
Yeah.
So
that is spirituality.
Yeah,
we are all one. What I do on you, I do to myself.
Yeah. So, like, if you're like the king, or you're a 6-year-old child, I'm gonna treat you the same. I'm gonna be like, you're as valuable, you're as valid of respect, the king.
Yeah.
But if the king's a fucking twat, I'm gonna treat them like, if they took me as a fucking twat, I'm gonna be like, king, you can fucking jog on. And the 6-year-old, I'll give a lot more grace. But if you're an older man with a lot of privilege and you treat me like a fucking asshole, expect to have that reflected in your face. Because zero fucks do I give about you being on the fucking throne.
They're man-made titles. There is no such thing as a king.
What?
There's no such thing. It's a made of bullshit.
It's just, this is it. This is I think.
Such thing as a CEO of a corporation that's entitled to take all the money that I earn a week just because he's my boss. It's all made up. It's bullshit abuse. All of it.
And that's the thing with the spirituality, and just where because once you start to see the truth, it becomes more and more farcical.
Yeah, it's hilarious, actually. From my point of view, it's hilarious. When I see somebody out there being high and mighty and thinking they're above everybody, and they're the biggest twat ever walking 2 feet, but their title makes them think they're better. It's hilarious.
Oh, dear.
The truth is hilarious. It's like watching a Shakespeare comedy in reality.
Yeah,
Shakespeare was a genius. He was a genius. He saw it.
That's the spiritual awakening. The Emperor's New Clothes, when instead of just everybody going, yeah. And Northern Ireland's really bad for not for slagging
not
people.
Rocking the boat. When I studied psychology years ago, that was one of the things that came up. How people rather be obedient and conform than be the one that speaks out.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to speak out and be the different one.
Or a lot of rejection, which you get the fuck over.
A lot of rejection and a lot of pain, and say, fuck this all, I don't care about you anymore.
And that's spirituality.
Spirituality.
Yeah, I love
So
myself.
my 2 words that I taught to many, many people that came to me for spiritual healing was, you got to learn to say, fuck it. That was what I told them all. You got to learn to say, fuck it, because none of it matters. It's all bullshit. So there you are.
There we go. Well, happy Mother's Day, Carol.
Happy Mother's Day, Lee. And I hope my children have learned a lot of this, because I want them to be powerful, not obedient. But I think they have.
Yeah, powerful, content, fulfilled, and actualized. I want my kids to be actualized.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
So, thank you for another wonderful chat.
Yeah.
And I'll see you next week.
Take care.
Chat
Pleasure as always. Bye.